Hello, everybody, and welcome to Where Are They Now? My name is Eddie Mata, and this is brought to you by Malibu Clothes. Get your suits right here at the Malibu Clothes building in Beverly Hills. Today's guest is a former Major League Baseball player. Speaking of timing, the right place, the right time, he played with the Oakland A's, and after the Oakland A's, he came to the New York Yankees. Please welcome Scott Brosius. How are you, buddy?
Hey, how you doing?
You started your career with the Oakland A's. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I probably wasn't the typical journey, coming out of Linfield College in 1987. I was a 20th round draft pick. So I wasn't the first rounder with the expectations of making a quick jump to the big leagues, and so kind of just banged my way through the minor leagues. Kind of made a stop each year. In 1991, I came up with Oakland, and so really kind of as a full-time player, really from 92 to 97.
When you were playing for the Oakland A's, did you hate coming to Yankee Stadium?
Absolutely did. It was like the worst place to go to. My first time coming in as a visiting player, so it was probably 92, I guess, and I didn't start that game. Ricky Henderson was in the outfield about the fifth inning. We were getting blown out by the Yankees, and Ricky, I think, got tossed from the game, and so into left field I go, and all the fans, kind of the typical kind of stuff, yelling things, and some of it was pretty creative, so it was kind of fun. But then Canseco, this game ends up being a blowout, and so by the seventh inning, I get moved from left field out to right field.
Ooh.
Okay, so now I'm facing the bleacher creatures for the first time, and I had no idea what I was walking into or getting into, and so I'm walking over there, and all of a sudden they're like all standing up, and they're just like chanting something, and they're pointing at me, and I'm going, what are they saying? What's going on? Well, then I finally catch what they're saying, and it's pretty much R-rated, saying, who are you? And I'm going, man. My first thought was, man, I'll never bring my family to this place, right? And so all the things that were so uncomfortable as a visitor, you absolutely loved as a home player.
1997, in the beginning of the year, you guys opened up a Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
You see their ceremony. They get in their rings because they won the title the year before in 96. What are you thinking in your mind at that moment?
And this is the honest-to-goodness truth, because I remember that so specifically. And so, we're watching the opening ceremony, and the ring, all the stuff going on. They're bringing out all the people, all the former players, and I just remember watching that going, how cool would that be to put on the pinstripes? I mean, how cool would that be to be a part of that kind of history? And because it's just different. I don't care what anybody says, it's different. I don't care who you play for. Big leagues are the big leagues, and it's great. But there is something different about an opening ceremony, at Yankee Stadium.
97, you had a bad year hitting .201. I know I don't want to talk about that, but I have to tell you what happened when they traded you to the Yankees for Kenny Rogers. Who were you close to? Did you have any doubts coming to New York? Did you think about it in the wintertime?
Well, I think you have a lot of questions you have to answer coming off a year like I had. I mean, it was a worst case scenario type of a year where if anything could go bad, it did. I was trying to play through some, an injury, a knee injury that I was just, trying to ignore, and I know that impacted, how I played a little bit, especially offensively. It was my right knee and my backside. I wasn't swinging the same way. Finally chose to have the surgery when it kind of went out on me a little bit in August. Had the surgery, rushed back in September to try to just salvage something out of the year, and I just wasn't ready. Honestly, when I came back physically, I kind of rushed through it, and so just had a terrible finish to the year. And so I think any time that you come off a season like I did, you gotta look in the mirror and say, okay, what went wrong, and you got to start answering some questions about that, and trying to figure out, okay, how do I keep that snowball from ever happening again? And so, no question, you come off a year where I think it was 203, not 201.
I missed it.
By those two little points right there, but
okay,
you come off a year where you hit 200. and you're asking some questions, and also go, man, I don't know, what my status is going to be next year. Am I going to be, have a big league job? Am I going to be back with Oakland? I knew probably the trade was coming. Honestly, I think I would have been traded during the season in '97 had I been having a better year. But because I was struggling so much, I think that, that trade wasn't going to happen.
You arrived in spring training in Tampa. Okay, you see guys like Derek Jeter, Bernie Williams, Paul Oneill, Tino Martinez, Jorge Posada, Joe Girardi. I mean, you got big names, solid names right there. How did you squeeze yourself in there with these guys? What did you feel like? Do I have to impress these guys, or I'm just gonna have fun?
No, I think there's two elements. Number one, those guys made it very easy. I mean, great teammates. I mean, I walked into a clubhouse that was a great clubhouse. And it was so refreshing, I think, to go from the situation where I was to all of a sudden into a clubhouse. They had just come off a '97 disappointment where they got beat in the playoffs, and the only talk people had were getting back to the World Series. I remember the first meeting. I remember meeting Mr. Steinbrenner a couple days. I was down in Tampa about a week early and just doing some workouts with the team beforehand. And I remember him just walking in, and honestly, I was in the cages hitting, and he was just like, "Hey, welcome. You're part of our family now. You just go out and do what you're capable of doing. We know what you've done in the past. Just forget about last year and go out and just do what you're capable of doing." And honestly, that helped a lot because that was really my first one-on-one, ever meeting with the boss.
So you won the job at third base. You guys fly to Anaheim. You start the season 1-4. What happened?
Yeah, I don't know. I think there was so much expectations, obviously, on that team. We had a meeting really after the fourth or fifth game, whatever it was, and just said, hey, and Joe's point was just very simple and easy to understand. We're better than this. Just go out and play like you're capable of playing.
May 17th, the boogie down in the Bronx, day game. David Wells, the last 3 outs, okay? Scott, be honest with me. Are you guys like nervous? Like, oh my God, I can't afford to make a mistake. I mean, it's hard to relax, isn't it?
I'm telling you, in some ways, there's more pressure. You feel a little bit more pressure in those games than you do like in the World Series, right? Because you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be the guy where, the mistake happens or the error happens. And so it's funny, obviously, my first time I was ever part of a perfect game and everybody else on the field. And so we're sitting around afterwards with Jeter and Nobby and Tino, and we're talking about his infielders. I go, saying the same thing. Honestly, did you want the ball hit to you? Did you want it hit to you? I mean, I'm telling you, you're almost diving for foul balls. You're like so on edge to try to make a play that you're almost diving for foul balls. And kind of, we're all just kind of laughing. It's like, no, the last thing you wanted was that nasty short hop, in between hop type of ball. Just give me something easy, give me something simple, and it ended with the fly ball to Paulie in right field. It was like the perfect inning. That ball's going to be caught.
What's it like playing with Derek Jeter on the left side? Would he get upset in a friendly way? Hey, why'd you call me off on that? That's mine. Or why'd you grab that ground ball? That's mine. Would he be like that?
We had a great relationship as teammates. He's a great teammate because, he's a great player, number one, but he has such a desire, such a will to win. The focus out there is pretty evident, but he also has fun doing it. And you have to. There has to be, if you can't enjoy playing this game, then you shouldn't be out there. I mean, there still has to be an element that you can be focused, you can be competitive, but you still got to have fun. And so, an example of that was our first home series when Seattle comes back and we're playing them at home. And we got it's like the second inning early in the game, and Ken Griffey Jr. hits a pop-up to me kind of back behind third a little bit that I go back for and I drop it. And, of course, the fans are booing, and I'm hearing, go back to Oakland, all that kind of stuff. After I dropped that ball, for literally about the next month, Jeter's calling me up every pop-up we get. Ones that I'm standing right under, and he comes over, and he calls me off. And I just kind of look at him, and I'm like, dude, are you ever going to let me catch the ball again? And he just kind of smile and walk off after catching it. So this goes on for like a few weeks, and I'm like, come on, man, let me catch the ball, and we're going back and forth. And so finally this ball is hit, and it's probably one that he would typically call me off. I'm going back towards left field a little bit, and so I'm going back out, and I start, waving for it, calling for it, and I don't hear him. And I'm like, he's gonna let me catch this ball, you know. And so sure enough, the ball's coming to me, and I can feel him like right next to me. And I'm just waiting for him to call me off, but he doesn't. So then, just as I'm catching the ball, he just goes, "Ah!" like that, almost like he's trying to scare me. And so I catch the ball, and I look over him. I go, "Are you nuts? What are you doing?" And he just kind of grinned as I threw him the ball and just kind of walked off.
I know '98 was one of your favorite years. That was the best year. Your first year with the New York Yankees. Who were you close with? Did you guys go out all together? Most of you guys went out to dinners after the game. I mean, because the season was so great. Like, let's say after the All-Star break, you guys are on top. Everything's going great. Who were your great friends that you would take your wife Jennifer and let's say Paul Oneill's wife?
It wasn't just public talk. I mean, really, this whole team got together. Got along so well. Got together. You'd go to a dinner after a game, and it might be 5 guys one night, 13 guys the next night, and it'd just be a mix of different guys from night to night. That truly guys got along, and so I remember in Seattle. Going to a dinner, and I don't know, there had to be seriously like 17, 18 of us sitting around this big table, in this restaurant eating, and then walks Joe Torre, and he looks at this and he says, "All right, I like seeing this." And we find out later he buys everybody's meal. The guys, honestly, that I spent the most time with, in terms of off the field, Andy Pettitte and I were pretty tight. Oneill and I were pretty tight. Girardi, they were just guys that we shared a lot of the same, kind of beliefs and stuff like that off the field, and so those were the guys. Pettitte and I, we'd kind of get adjoining rooms on the road, so we'd always have the door open so we could pop in and kind of chat with each other and hang out.
What made you pick White Plains?
I think, I don't know that I picked it. Actually, Jennifer, my wife, picked it. When we came in, we really had no idea where to go. But we knew that, with 3 young kids, Manhattan wasn't going to be the place. We needed a yard. We needed a house. We needed some space. And so, honestly, I'm playing games, and she's meeting with just, realtors, and we're just trying to figure out where to live. And so it really fell on her, and she did an awesome job.
You guys finished the season, unbelievable season. I mean, 114 wins, 48 losses. Am I correct? 48 losses that year?
Yeah.
48 losses. And now you guys get to October. When you hit the home run against Trevor Hoffman, were you sitting on that? Was it a changeup? Were you sitting on it, or were you looking, or were you just reacted to that?
Yeah, it was actually a fastball.
It was a fastball? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was. And so I was just kind of, at that point I had 2 strikes, and I think you're just sort of trying to pitches and react. I always kind of felt like as a hitter, you always have to be fastball ready. I think regardless of the count, I could never guess with 2 strikes, because if you guess wrong, your at bat's over.
You made the final out. You threw a shot to Tino Martinez. Game over. World Series over. New York Yankees, World Series champions. Yeah. MVP. What's it like when you have the commissioner and everybody celebrating there, and also giving you that MVP, a trophy, and also most importantly, that big crown, Scott, the big crown that you said in your career, in your past, I would never want to come to New York. This place is crazy.
Right. No, it's funny. One of the things that when I came over, it was funny. One of the games that I played like mentally with myself every day in BP, because again, you're like, hey, this is a team that can be in the World Series. And so my last ground ball, every single infield session, I would tell myself, 2 outs in the World Series right here, make the play. 2 outs in the World Series, last game, make the play. And so that was always how I ended every single ground ball session. So that, when the ball came to me, it was almost like, no way, and so, when the game was over, I know after the award ceremony and things like that, one of the other wives came up and she says, "Hey, Tigger," and I'm kind of looking at her like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "Tigger, how we used to jump around. That's what you were doing on the field tonight." And I'm like, "Really?" I had no idea. You know what I mean? It was like, it's just, I don't know how else to explain it except for it's just pure joy. When you've won that World Series. And then I watched the replay. I'm like, no way, I was hopping all over the place like a madman. I had no idea that I was doing it, and I kind of joked, the part of my part of the joy was I didn't airmail the throw, and being so excited, throw it 20 rows into the stands that actually we got it on target and ended it.
It was a perfect shot to Tino Martinez. It was like bang. You know what's interesting about that year on the Yankees? All you guys had double-digit home runs, but nobody hit over 30 home runs.
Right. And that's something that about that team that's got lost a little bit in terms of today's game. That number one, you look at our team, okay, when Andy Pettitte and David Cohn and David Wells and El Duque, and you just go down the list. When those guys step out on the mound, and you got Jeff Nelson and Mike Stanton and Rivera and Graham Lloyd, you look at the pitching staff, and you say every single day when you come to the park, you got a chance to win. But then offensively, we were a good defensive team, and offensively, like you said, there was no 40, 50 home run guys, but there was no 200 strikeout guys either. We put the ball in play. We were able to hit and run. We were able to bunt. And I think a lot of times in playoff baseball, when you're facing the staff aces twice in a series, you got to find a way to create a run. And that gets lost a little bit in the game now. And that's what our team was able to do.
1999 came. And a great moment. Again, perfect timing for Scott Brosius. You're playing third, 2 outs. David Cohn's on the mound. Talk to me about this. Once that hitter hit it.
As this game's going on, you're like, another perfect game? You got a chance to be a part of another perfect game, right? And so sure enough, the last out, and all the things that we talked about with the Wells game, and David Wells game, I did not get any plays at all in that game.
Not one?
As I look back at that game, I didn't get one play at all in that game. Everything, and so with Tony, though, I had a couple plays. And then, of course, the last out is just like as we talked about, it was a pop-up. And so you just go, yes, it's a pop-up, right? And so the thing that I remember is it was kind of a shallow pop-up between third and home, and I knew it was my ball, but my thought process was I started calling for it like over and over again because I didn't want Girardi. I'm thinking he could be fired up too. We're going to go catch this, and the last thing you want is like a collision or something, So I'm just yelling for the ball. I make the catch, and I turn, and Girardi and Cody already hugged each other.
You won the World Series in 2000. Then it came to 2001. America was in shock. We had the 9/11 year, and you guys went to the World Series that year. It was such great, dramatic comebacks. Tell me about those games. It's just, I was shocked, like, wow. And New York needed that. United States needed too, but especially New York. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, no, I think the things I remember about that World Series and what most people remember also are those 3 games, the 3 games in New York. Number one, all 3 were come from behind, wins. I think the thing that sticks out to me most is just the emotion in the ballpark, the moments, President Bush throwing out the first pitch, and just kind of how he went out there and stood in front of everybody and the thumbs up and everything is going to be okay. Like I said, really emotionally kind of a draining time. Before the game, you're meeting somebody that was impacted by the tragedy, that lost a husband or a dad or something like that. And so you're kind of crying with somebody before a game. You got to gear up to play this game. After the game, same thing. You're meeting other people. And so it's just this really up and down, just mix of emotions that we were having. The stadium, we realized how important continuing the season was and playing to give just a little bit of a normalcy to people for just a few hours a day and something to cheer and celebrate. And so it was probably the only year that people outside New York were probably pulling for New York.
Game 5, coming in the 9th inning, you're down by 2 runs.
Mm-hmm.
Were you looking for a specific pitch against Kim?
Yeah, I think the thing that helped us. Kim was kind of a tricky guy to face because obviously his deliveries, a submariner, a guy that when you see him for the first time, it's a little hard to pick up release point, all that kind of things. And I think probably the thing that helped is we'd seen him the night before, and I'd gotten a couple of at bats off of him, and so you start to get a little bit more comfortable with seeing the pitches. Actually, the night before, I believe it was, I hit a ball that went foul, but it was still kind of a home run, kind of a distance ball, but I'd kind of pulled it foul, and I think it was a fastball that was kind of tailing in. And so, the thought process was, with him, you're going to get a slider, you're going to get something like that early in the count, base open, that type of thing. He doesn't really want to walk you, so he's going to throw you strikes, but it's going to be something off speed. And so I just saw it pretty well out of his hand, and he left it kind of up and out over the middle of the plate, and I was able to put a good swing on it.
Yeah, that was actually a bomb, man. You got good wood on that.
It's one of those swings where as soon as you hit it that it's gone.
Gone.
I know my hand went up right away. And so I knew we had tied it up, and it was funny because I get asked this question a lot. What were you thinking running the bases? And truly, it's just amazing how those moments, how something can just like kind of stop and slow down for you. I remember about 2 or 3 steps before second base, and as I'm touching second base, thinking to myself, no way. No way did that just happen again. 2 nights in a row. No way did that just happen.
That's the first time that ever happened in the World Series history, back-to-back nights like that.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy.
Did you experience the stadium shaking?
Oh, no question. And honestly, the first time that I really ever felt it shaking like that was in Game 5 against Oakland in the first round. We lost those first 2 games at home, went to Oakland 1-2, came back for Game 5. And I remember Soriano getting a base hit that finally knocked Mulder out of the game, and we were up, 5 or 6-2, and I was on second base. And the place was going crazy. And because I was just standing and not running the bases like maybe I was in Game 5 of the series, because I was just standing there, I felt that before, like early in my career when we played the Twins in 91, we played the Twins in the Dome. I'd felt that before, but I'd never felt that before in an open-air stadium. And I'm standing at second base, and I can feel the ground moving, and I'm going, wow, this is pretty incredible.
2001, obviously you guys fell short.
Mm-hmm.
And then what, Scott?
Yeah, it's funny because as that season was going on, it was pretty interesting because that was my free agent year. I kind of got a kick out of I didn't really read the papers. That was one of the things that when I came over from Oakland to New York, I said, you know what? Ignorance is bliss. I don't want to read. I don't want to know if I'm getting buried. I don't want to know if I'm, I just don't want. So I really kind of stayed away from the papers. But it was funny because a lot of the things that I was reading were like, the Yankees probably aren't going to bring Brosius back because he's looking for a 2 or 3 year deal, and they don't know if he wants to commit to that. And I'm like, who's coming up with this? Because, privately I'm talking to Oneill and other guys saying, this might be it. I know it seems kind of early, but this might be it for me. My kids are getting older and those type of things. And so all these rumors that were kind of flying around just kind of made me smile because they were literally coming out of the blue.
After 2001, you called it quits, not because of, you wanted a contract. And I'll be honest, you called it quits because family's important and you didn't want to miss that. You didn't want to miss your kids growing up. Is that true?
Yeah, it really wasn't a baseball decision. Certainly it was in the sense that, what the lifestyle of baseball, was. And we got home and my kids were at an age that I knew I needed to be around them more. I look at my career, there was nothing I needed to hang on for. I wasn't going to the Hall of Fame. Right. There's no numbers that I needed to chase. And in terms of experiences in the game, what else could I experience? 4 straight World Series, 3 World Series wins in a row. Anything that I could have hoped to be a part of in the game, I had the chance to experience. And so I just really felt like for that time in my life and with my family, I would just do more harm than good in terms of continuing to play. And so it was really more of a family decision than it was a baseball decision.
If you didn't have kids, Scott, would you think you would continue after 2001?
Probably. I would say I felt like I had a little bit more in the tank.
The timing was awesome when you came on the team. Everything went great. So here's the next question. What are you doing now?
I'm back here at Linfield College now, which is, like I said, where I played and kind of my roots as a baseball player, and now kind of have a chance to kind of give that back and go full circle as the head coach here at Linfield. And so I think this year, if my math is right, it'll be my 7th year as the head coach.
I talked to the athletic director, and he told me a great story. So you got a kid that visit the school, your college, to see if he's going to play. And I know your office is right near the third base side. Is that
Right.
okay? On the field.
Actually, in my office now, it's at the baseball field. My office, you talked about kind of a smaller school setup. I am literally in the third base dugout. I'm back behind the third base dugout at the field is where my office is.
Oh my, that's awesome. Actually, you built that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And also, you donated lights to the stadium?
Yeah, I mean, I think over the years, obviously there's things that I've been fortunate enough to be able to help out with. We have lights, and we also have a turf, field infield as well. That in some covered batting cages. We're in Oregon, and our springs can be a little rainy, so we're able to do some things to make our field pretty nice, even through some of the kind of marginal weather.
So, your athletic director, he tells me, I talked to him for an hour yesterday because I had to get some scoop on you, my man, I do that with all my ball players. So he says a kid comes out of your office, he's like, man, that guy loves the Yankees. And he didn't even know that you played for the Yankees.
Yeah. No, I'm telling
awesome.
you, that's how the time flies. I don't go crazy with it, but I have a few pictures in my office. A couple pictures of the parade, and the ticker tape, and some of the guys that I played with, and things like that. So
and where the rocks at? Where the rocks at?
Yeah, those things they're kind of at a safe place at home.
Yeah, they better be in a safe place.
Yeah, you can't really wander around McMinnville, Oregon, wearing your championship rings too much. I try to kind of roll a little bit incognito as it is, and so if I were to have those things kind of hanging off my finger, it'd be kind of tough to do. So so I got them in a safe place. We had a really fortunate last year here at Linfield. We had a great year, and we won the national championship.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that.
We were able to add another championship ring to the mix.
Scott, I wish you the best of luck to you and your family, your college right now. Congratulations on winning the National Division III championship. That's you're used to it, aren't you? You're used to winning.
Yeah, that was great. No, I appreciate it. Great talking to you today. Appreciate you having me on.